Why is that? Why is the angel Metatron coming up so much? Because, I mean, there was a huge channeling done by somebody the other day around Ireland and the divas and the spiritual realms there and all that kind of stuff, and it was all supposedly from Metatron. But I think I've heard Metatron's name at least 10 times in the last week. So what's going on there with that? Why is it coming up so much?
Well, because the next Transformer movie is about to come out. All right. Okay, well, Metatron is coming forth based in magnetics, based in portals opening. And we're playing with the magnetics of Jupiter and Venus that are also crossing magnetic formulas. And as they're crossing magnetic formulas, it's automatically triggering, amplifying, pulling on the magnetic ley lines in Ireland, also on Stonehenge. Now, within Stonehenge as well, it's reactivating, no more different than we were playing in Egypt, Mazatlan, and Peru in the Andes, activating the pyramidal structures as well, but here playing more with Stonehenge and the beautiful stones, not to give a lot of power to it, but also opening up vortex levels of consciousness, including activating ley lines. If you look at the ley lines right now, they're definitely going through a lot of being pulled on, a lot of changes happening within them, raising the consciousness, but also breaking down the paradigmal scripts that have been so in-depth right underneath the planetary templates, also shifting around and shifting away the overlying and the underlying state of the archaicness, even the scrolls that have been embedded within the in-depth ley lines within the planetary matrix there, that have been so embedded, so inscribed, even with the petroglyphs and the pictoglyphs that have been from the underlying caverns there, that are also creating a lot of shaking around even of the planetary templates, opening of caverns and crystalline caverns as well, but more importantly, the planetary crest caverns there that are letting Brother Humanity reach a whole other state, a whole other level of consciousness, no longer so much from a protective state of the area, because the Dear Brother's been very protective of it, but it's letting the areas begin to arise to let the data and the information, beyond even the Blarney Stones and so forth, begin to come out of a ritualistic state more into an evolved, awakened, and an arrival in a welcoming state.
Gotcha. So what you're saying then is the way, I mean, it makes perfect sense, of course, that the ley lines on the planet, the magnetics of the planet, Metatron is coming up because Metatron has, there's a lot of dancing with Metatron and those ley lines. Actually, the way they were held a grid in place that actually was part of holding the old density in place. And as we shift and we change, and consciousness shifts and changes, then so does the magnetics and the grid, the ley lines of the planet also have to change. And so new things will be revealed and all sorts of stuff in those places. So because that's part of those are the places that are being so profoundly affected. Is that about right, or is there more you want to add?
Well, there's more. There's such as the Cryon that plays much with the magnetics of the planetary matrix as a whole. Okay. And then the Metatron that plays with cones of consciousness, playing with literal ley lines, specific and specified ley lines that are creating portals. And if you look at it, they're cones of consciousness arising up from the beautiful ley lines, but the partitionment of ley lines. No more different than the Nazca lines. Then you start to look at these lattice works beginning to spiral up. Now, if we're to play with comparison from the Cryon to the Ashtar to the Pleiades, all the way through the Ramthas, we're playing with all of these different deities, all the way to the Abrahams and so forth and so forth. They're playing with so many different attributes, all the way through the Germanian levels and so forth. Well, they're all playing with different attributes, but the Metatrons, even with the Jupiterians, and these levels that are playing with so many different attributes, but then they're coming in waves. And where the Metatron levels, they're creating streams of cones of consciousness They're portals that are opening up, streaming exponentially directly up. Now,
Right.
these are portals that you're walking through, but also playing with planetary Nazca lines, ley lines that are literally pulling on a grid system, but it goes beyond just a constant planetary grid system. It goes within grid systems, and the encodements of consciousness that have been locked in, anchored in, that have created a solidified structures all the way to the Blarney stones, all the way through the ritualistic states, the mystical states, even through, or you'll even start to feel the wind changing in the area and the spiraling. This is even when you're playing with tornado activities. You see, all of it is spiraling at such a rate, but yet changing around weather patterns, changing around growth patterns, but yet it still comes down to affecting the consciousness in the area, even the land growth patterns in the area, even to the kingdoms in the area, but then affecting the consciousness in the area. So if you watch what's happening, it's affecting the consciousness, and the consciousness is affecting it, but it's also happening in the denser parts of the planet, but then arising the consciousness. Now, the consciousness that's arising is also from the mystic realms, and the mystical realms beginning to open up portals, but also beginning to affect the forest attributes that are also affecting humanity in the area, and humanity opening up and stepping more out of their family crest scenarios, and going into a much more evolved and amplified state that are also being presented with a lot of odd dream scenarios, but also created a lot of portals that they're going to and continue to go through, to step through, to be able to enjoy so much further, but also being able to come to terms with so much further, and then also being able to run forth with so much further beyond family crests, beyond family monads, and stepping right into their individual, unique journeys to be enjoyed and to really flourish with. And forgetting about evolution as a whole, we're looking at specific unified fields of consciousness, about the specific creator consciousness that is arising within them, specifically, uniquely, individually.